Welcome to the Businessmen and Women of Color podcast. I am your host, Ann Alston, and it is once again my pleasure to bring quality programs to all of you. I am excited to be back again with another phenomenal guest speaker here today. He is definitely all over social media, just spreading such good information. And, I got to say the name already. Dr. Will Moreland is going to be here in the house to talk to us today about what he does and as far as his leadership training and all of the great things that he does. So also I want to tell you what the purpose of the BMWC is to not only share our industry information, but we are encouraging you, the working professional, career seekers, and college students to start looking at the differences in the industries and the professions and really getting a handle on what you can do as far as your profession is concerned. So this is a really good opportunity to visit all of the pages. We have so many people who is on this platform in 2018 because this is the platform to be on. So take some really good notes, connect with them, reach out to them, even collaborate with them, because that is what the BMWC community is all about. Before we get started, we're going to thank our corporate partners and sponsors, which are Kat Serrano LLC, Cheryl Wood Empowers, Concern and Learning, Evangelism Radio, Genesis Preferred Solution, J Coach International, Nels Tax Help, My Financial Home, Power, STCI, and the Student Teacher, along with our business partners and sponsors and business affiliates, and everyone who is helping to make this event a really good season. So tonight, as promised, I am really excited to have this man on here because I think he's very phenomenal, and I want to introduce Dr. Will Moreland to the podcast. And after serving in the military, which includes 2 tours, Dr. Will heeded the call to serve in a new way. Receiving his honorable discharge from the Army, he found Will Moreland International, which is a leadership training company that has clients over 10 countries and throughout the United States. Dr. Will is committed to helping individuals and organizations reach their top potential through leadership development. Over the last decade, he has been named as the top speaker, a leader to follow on Twitter, Mentor of the Year, Business Person of the Year, Community Leader, and so many different accolades, including being nominated as under 40 and has been featured in Forbes magazine. So, Dr. Will, I can't even say enough about all the stuff that you've done in the past. So, welcome to the podcast.
My. Well, thank you so much for having me. And before we even jump into this big ocean, let me thank you for everything that you're doing to create platforms like this for individuals like me to share. And so we work together in a partnership. I have something to say. You have a platform for us to share it on. So thank you so much for having me.
Well, fantastic. Fantastic. See, you're already bringing the energy. I'm ready for it now. So let's talk about who you are, where you're from, and what did you do before you became a leadership coach and even before you even went to the military?
So let's make a real long story short. I'm originally from Compton, California, born and raised. Found myself getting into a little bit of trouble, but thankfully there was a plan for my life, and I got an opportunity to join the United States Army, and that gave me the opportunity to get out of a bad situation, get into a brand new environment, get surrounded by some mentors that begin to pour into me and begin to help me shape my life and my direction. And when I joined the military, that's when the bug for leadership development kind of got into me. I saw what it did for me and how it transformed my life, and I began to just study all different types of leadership material, the John Maxwell, the Jim Rohns, the Zig Ziglars, the Warren Bennett's, just all the great Tom Peters, all the great leadership gurus. And I began to see how impactful leadership was in every area of my life. And that's what I knew. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go and travel the world and teach other people these leadership principles, and hopefully it would have the same impact on their life that it had on mine. And I didn't know what that looked like in terms of being able to do that, but I did know that's what I wanted to do. And so for the last 17 years, once I got out the military with my military commitment of 6 years, I started a leadership development company in Kitzingen, Germany, back in 2001, and we've been just so fortunate over the years to be able to travel to over 40 different countries. We've impacted thousands upon thousands of leaders, and in 2010 I moved the company to Phoenix, Arizona, where I live now, and we have the opportunity to continue on impacting individuals. And so that's what has us uh, occupied today, and how I invest most of my days.
Wow, there's so much that I can ask in there. Okay, so let me just start with you opened up your company in Germany. How did you land upon that? Because a lot of us as African Americans don't think about opening businesses overseas first. We always thinking about let's do it over here where we live, right? And then we're going to go overseas and go abroad. But you actually started the other way around. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I really can't take too much credit for that, but I initially got to Germany because of the military. That's why I was stationed in Germany. And to be honest with you, I was on my way back. I was getting ready to transition out of the military, and I was on my way back to California. Had a job lined up in California, and before I went to California, I took a trip to New York to go visit some family, and in particular, my great aunt. And I went to go visit her. And while I was on that trip to visit her in New York, I just got this inkling on the inside of me that I should stay in Germany and not return to the United States as of yet. Now, I didn't know what that meant. I didn't even know if I could. I didn't know what it looked like to be a foreigner to live inside Germany outside the military. And I had a very short window. I think I had maybe about a month and a half, 2 months before I actually transitioned out the military. And so as soon as I got back from New York, I went to the proper offices, and I began to inquire how I was going to do that. And one of the things was you had to be able to sustain yourself, have a job or something like that. And I told them my dream of opening up a business, and they kind of chuckled at me like, "You're going to do it here in Germany? I don't know if how that's going to play, a black dude here in Germany trying to open up a company." But that's what I just felt in my heart I should do. I took the walk of faith and mustered up the courage, and my wife and I, we did it, and it worked.
Wow, 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 wow. That's all I can say is wow, because um, I want people to really understand basically that there was a lot of opportunities that you took advantage of when it presented itself, right? So a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we don't do that. And as a leadership development coach, you know, I kind of want you to give that, that insight of, I'm going to do this against all odds. You did it in Germany and you overcame some obstacles of getting it started. But at the same time, a lot of entrepreneurs who's listening to that saying, I don't think I could ever start a company in Germany, let alone the United States. So from a leadership perspective, what are some of the things that you can offer in terms of those folks that want to start a new business here or abroad, particularly abroad, because I know that there have been some things coming out as far as opportunities to open up businesses abroad.
Some of the best advice one of my mentors gave me a long time ago when I was kind of in that valley of indecision. And this is what he said to me. He says, "Will, after you've written it down, after you've prayed, after you've contemplated, after you've tried to figure it out, at the end of the day, you're just going to have to do it. You're just going to have to do it." And so, for any entrepreneur listening to me, um, you're just going to have to do it. Now, let me put a pin there. When I say you're just going to have to do it, I know everybody's story is different. I know we have responsibilities. I don't want anyone to say, well, I was listening to Ann and Dr. Will, and they said, leave my job and leap and jump. That's not what we're saying.
That's
That's
not we
not what we're saying. But what I am saying is if you have that bug, if you have that small voice on the inside of you, if you feel that tugging on you to know that there's more than a cubicle, if you feel that hugging on you, that tugging on you to say, you know what, I'm supposed to be something doing something different, then this is what I always tell everybody. Then get a plan. Set yourself a date. I would say give yourself 18 months and get you an exit strategy and begin to work your exit strategy. And when I say that, that
got to
doesn't
work
mean
it.
going, yeah, don't go into your boss and say, "Hey, I'm leaving here in 18 months. Y'all going to regret," but start planning. What does that mean for you? That may mean that you need to have a conversation with your family and say, hey, this is what I'm going to do. So we need to make some cutbacks because we're going to start saving money. I'm going to use this job that I'm on right now to fund my exit and to fund this new business. And so start having those genuine conversations with the key stakeholders in your life, your children, your spouse, your parent, whatever it looks like in your life. But begin. You got to start, right? Nothing happens until you start.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I want to turn the table over to your leadership organization. So talk to us about what type of leadership training that you provide for your business and for those who you serve.
Great question. And I want to circle back to something you talked about with opportunity because it's going to tie into my company. So when I was in Germany, the type of leadership work that we did and type of leadership development that we did was we worked with European companies that wanted to send their executives into America to work. They wanted to expand into America. So the opportunity that presented itself was for us to teach cultural awareness training, for us to help their executives adapt into an American culture. So that was the opportunity that presented itself. When I moved the company to Arizona, well, the opportunity changed because I wasn't training Europeans to move into the United States. What we found here, especially here in Arizona where I live, they needed more diversity training, and that was the big buzzword. And so we kind of shifted a little bit, and we started working with organizations to help them create a diverse culture. Now that we've been here in the Valley for 8 years, we've expanded more, and now we help organizations with their executive teams. We do executive coaching, we do employee engagement training, and we do several other types of training. But it was always staying relevant to the opportunity that was in front of us. And so that's what I see a lot of entrepreneurs, they don't take advantage of the opportunity that's in front of them. It may not be particularly what you want to do at the time, but it's the opportunity that opens up the door for you to be able to do what you want eventually.
Okay, so I think you were going to also touch on the other part of the question about, the type of leadership that you do for your business. I know part of that was opportunity, but I'm not sure if I heard the type of leadership services that you provide. And I know
Yeah, so
part of, so you talked about the diversity. Is that like the only piece that you
no, so
kind of focus on?
we do executive coaching. So we
Okay.
work with their executives and for leaders that are just getting into new roles. So we do new leader training. We do
Hmm.
executive scope training. We work with their employees. We do employee engagement training, and then we do
Hmm.
cultural enhancement training. If a company wants to enhance their culture, we teach them and train them how they do that.
Okay, awesome. So I wanted to ask you another question about being a Black man in a leadership coach position. Do you find that there are many African American males in your position, or is there a shortage of African American male in the leadership role?
That's a great question, a tough question. I almost want to say there is a lot because the colleagues that I deal with, they're all into this same space. But if I looked, at a broader lens, I would always say the industry is open to more African American men and women getting into the roles of leadership, and I believe we culturally have something that we can bring to the table as well. And so, because I'm in the industry, most of the individuals I talk to are in the industry, and so I see other African Americans. But if I widen that lens, yeah, definitely the doors open for
Mhm.
more trainers and consultants to get into the industry.
Yeah, the reason why I brought that up because I have come across hundreds of women who are out there becoming leadership coaches or leadership consultants. And I see on my side of the United States, I only see a few or only know of a few. And I kind of want to put that spotlight out there because I want to encourage those men that are out there doing what you do to really make themselves aware. Not saying you have to do like broad spectrum marketing or being advertising, but just pulling back. Like they always say, you want to pull back and pull forward, push forward. How, that saying when you trying to like pay it forward, because every time that somebody listens to like my platform or another business platform, that's just another way for us to know what people are doing. And so I wanted to get your professional opinion about what you experience as far as African American men who are seeking to be either a life coach or a leadership development coach or any of those type of industries.
Yeah, and it's really taking a step back and asking yourself a couple of questions. And those questions are questions like, where I am in my life and the success that I've had, or maybe even some of the failures that I've had. What have I learned and what can I pass on? What I find a lot of times, especially when we start talking about our community, a lot of times we're just pushing through life, right? We're just going through life and we go through a lot of things. I mean, things that would have taken the average person just completely off the rails. But what I found out is many of us never stop and begin to examine exactly what we've been through and what were some of those key things that we did that helped us continue on. Like we never stop and analyze it. And so what I would tell anybody to listening to us today is really stop and do an inventory of your life. What are some of the skills that you've picked up along the way? What are some of the experiences that you've picked up along the way? What are some of the unique environments that you've been a part of? I'll give you an example. I was born and grew up in Southern California. We experienced the Rodney King, right? I know many of the listeners will remember the Rodney
Yeah,
King
we
and
all
the
remember. Yeah, we
right
all
the
remember
LA
that.
riots.
Oh
So
yeah.
going back, right? So for me, I went through that as a teenager, but now that I'm,
Hmm.
I'm an adult man, I was able to go back and say, you know what? What were some of the lessons that I learned?
Hmm.
What were some of the lessons I learned growing up in the hood? Right? Critical thinking, always being observant. These are teachable, transferable skills that because it may come natural to us, or we were just doing it in the heat of the moment, we don't think that
Hmm.
we can teach them, or we think everybody knows it. Right? For me,
Right,
growing up in
right.
the inner city, I really learned how to have attention to detail. And what I mean by that, I grew up in a gang culture, so you literally had to watch out around every corner. And I don't know how we did this, and but like I could tell if a car didn't belong in the neighborhood, I could
You
tell.
knew. You
Like
knew
yeah,
what was
like
up.
hey, like that. Hey, who? Wait, man,
Wow.
whose Toyota Camry is that, man? Wait,
That's
hold on,
right.
wait a minute. Wait, like
Well,
I knew.
guys love cars anyway. So I mean,
Right,
see a car, they all look alike. Okay, y'all see a car,
right,
you can pretty much know the make, model, the tag number, all that stuff.
and
But
that's
let
a
me tell you the
transferable
reason.
skill. Yeah.
Yes, and I'm gonna tell you the second part of reason why I brought this up because there are so many people out there trying to empower women, and every year, this is the third year I've done the podcast, and I really want to hone in and put the spotlight that we need to empower our men. We need to empower our men, whether you're black, white, Latino, all the minorities, because we're so focused on the women, right? The women are always like, we gotta pull up the woman, we gotta empower the woman. You know, what are some of the things that you're doing in your service that is, going back to that thing where you actually had to use those transferable skills to help young men to move forward and really see their potential?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question because several years ago, I did see exactly what you're talking about. It was like a trend that the African American man had kind of got leapfrogged, right? And then we know the challenges with inside of America, especially in the inner cities. We know the assault that has been put on the African American man, and it was almost, not almost, but it what has happened, and the result of that is in our communities, women. I was raised by a single mother. I was raised by my single mom and my grandmother, and so women had to kind of step up in the forefront and really take some headship roles. But now, what I've seen in the last several years, at least the last 2 decades, men have come back into the place, but they're still misplaced. So, to answer your question, I've mentored hundreds of young men, and for me, it starts with a conversation. A lot of us have to have a retraining or a rewiring the way we thought. You know, now you're going into a home. What a lot of young men that I talk to, they're just ill equipped to date, to marry, to interact with this 21st century African American woman that is on the scene because when we were growing up, it was the woman was usually in the house. The dad was going out to work. The mom was in the house taking care of everything. Well, this century, what you have is the woman going out and the woman bringing home the bacon. And in many regards, she's bringing home more bacon, right? So if you grew up with the old adage of, well, I'm the man because I'm bringing home the bacon, what
Mm-hmm.
happens when you have a woman who is bringing home bacon and she's bringing home more bacon? Does that
And
mean she's
eggs
the
and
leader in the
toast.
house?
That's right. She
You see
got
what I mean?
bacon, eggs, toast, and
Right.
tea.
And so now this
That's
this
right.
man needs to figure out, man, am I still the head of the house?
Right.
Do I still have a say so?
Mm-hmm.
And even so women, they have to learn now, okay, yes, I'm making more money than him. Yes, I'm thriving, but what does that dynamic look like in our household, right? What does that look like in our house? What should be the roles and things and responsibilities? So for a lot of men, we've created these environments where we can just have these conversations. What I found out, especially men that are 35 and 40 plus, a lot of them are walking around with a lot of weight, a lot of heaviness, a lot of depression. And so just creating an environment for them to come and talk and have a transparent moment and to say, I haven't figured it all out and I'm 35 and I'm 40 and I don't know what I'm going to do next, because one of the big things that I've found out is, as a young woman, they teach you about, Prince Charming coming to rescue you and take you up.
Yeah.
But as a young man, no
Mm-hmm.
one ever taught me how to be Prince Charming. They never
Right.
taught me the responsibilities of Prince Charming. They just said, go out there and get a woman. But this woman is waiting for this man that's supposed to revolutionize her life. But we've never
Mm-hmm.
been taught that, right? We've never been
Right.
taught that. So now you have a lot of men that are in this sunken place trying to live up to these responsibilities. Just me being transparent, and even in my own situation, raised by a single mom, so I never saw the picture of what a husband looked like in the house. I never saw the picture of what a father looked like. So now that I have my own family, not only am I responsible to pray and provide, plan for my family, but I'm also there to nurture them and all this type of stuff that I've never been taught. So I have a whole lot of growing up to do in a short amount of time. No one taught me how to be a father, so I'm trying to learn how to be a father. To be a father to a girl is different than being a father to a young man, and so there's a lot of conversations that I try to initiate with men in my community because we're just lacking what I call these conversations that help us become the men we ought to be.
Right. And I really applaud the fact that you're doing that. And I wanted to add one caveat to that is that sometimes it's even still hard to reach those men to have those conversations, particularly over here in the East Coast where we are. It is really difficult to get them to come out and really have those conversations. There was an event that we actually had in Baltimore several months back that was particularly for young Black men. And they had lots of people who registered, but they didn't come out in the numbers that we were looking for. But the information that was shared was just so profound. And we were all standing there like, we need a better effort to bring our young men out to these types of events. So for everybody who's listening to this podcast, if there is an event out there that can help you with your business, with your career, with your health, your wellness, your mental state, anything, bring them out. Bring your kids out. Bring your brothers or your nephews out to these events so that they can, get a part of that. And so I want to thank you for sharing that transparency as far as like what you're doing in the community. So the next part of this segment, I want to talk about all these books that you've written. I mean, you have like 1,000 books, seem like. So in your bio, you have over 40 books, 15 bestsellers. So talk a little bit about some of the ones that you feel most proud of that you want people to know more about.
Yeah, so the books that was, I didn't start off wanting to be an author or anything like that. What actually happened was as the company started getting more successful, and it even kind of ties into the work that we do, the mentorship work. Um, as the company started getting successful, people just kept asking me about my journey. Hey, how did you do it? How did you turn it around? And then they started asking me about my company. Okay, well, what about marketing? What about advertising? What about brand building? And so people just kept asking me these questions. And literally, what happened was, I just ran out of time in terms of being able to talk to groups, being able to talk to individuals one on one. And so I began to ask myself, how can I get this information out to individuals in a mass way that I could save time but still be beneficial to them? And the best way at that time was I found it was through books. And so one of the first books that I wrote was a book on debt, how to get rid of debt, because people were asking me, how did you, growing up in Compton, California, how did you come up with this success? How did you get rid of debt and all this type of stuff? And so that was one of the first books that I wrote, and then I just started looking at my life and different areas in my life that I felt if I shared some of the principles that was working for me, um, if I could share it with other people, hopefully it could help them out as well. And so one of the books I can talk about is Genius Potential. That's what I call my flagship book. It kind of tells my story, and it really talks about my philosophy of how I believe that each and every one of us are endowed with a special, unique genius, and that genius is just some natural talent that you have, that you're willing to develop, that you're willing to then, after you've developed, you're willing to share with the masses. And when I say masses, I just mean those in your environment, those in your community, those that you have influence with. And so Genius Potential was the first international bestseller that we had. And then another book I can talk about is The Will to Win. If you're going to succeed in this life, want is not enough. You just can't want to have a better life. You just can't want to have better finances. You have to have the will to win. And when we talk about the will to win, it's that inner desire. Napoleon Hill called it a burning desire. You got to have a burning desire that you're going to accomplish the things that you want to accomplish in life. And then I've written books on sales, on branding, on how to monetize your book when you write a book. I've written personal development books, quote books. So
Wow.
many, just if I feel that it can help somebody, and there's some
Mhm.
principles that I've learned. Just one of the recent books we just released is Paid to Share Your Message, and so it's a book for speakers. If you're a speaker out there, or even if you're just someone out there that you feel that you have a message to share, I share
Mhm.
some principles in that book that I think that will help you set up your platform and be able to get your message out there. So, yeah, that's the whole story
Wow.
behind the books.
Wow, that is amazing. I can tell you that is amazing. And like they always say, if you want to hide information, put it in the book. But this is one of many books that we definitely don't want to hide. So, people are, if you're listening to this podcast, please make sure you pick up one of Dr. Will's books. He has lots to choose from that will help you from your personal to your profession to whatever it is that you need help with, because he has written these books to share his knowledge with you. So, for a small fee, I'm pretty sure you're going to get a lot of wealth out of that. So, what type of activities are you going to be into in the next few months that you want people to either come and see? Maybe a workshop that you're having, or maybe you're speaking somewhere and you want people to come out, talk a little bit about what you have going on.
Yeah, so I am. Thank you for that opportunity as well. I am really excited. This year, I'm hitting the road again. In 2016, I hit the road and I went to 17 different cities, working with entrepreneurs and small business owners, helping them set up their business and teaching them how to scale it and get ready to expand their business. And so I'm doing that again in 2018. I'm hitting the road again. As a matter of fact, we're getting ready to be in Dallas on the 2nd and 3rd of March. Will be the next city that we go to. We just left California, so we're headed to Dallas. So if you're on social media, just keep up with me on my social media platform. The handle is at Dr. Will Speaks on Twitter, Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. Just stay connected. You'll see the different advertisements for the different cities. And when I'm coming to a city near you, make sure you avail yourself. What I've been able to do, and the reason why I do this, I've been blessed and fortunate over my career to just work with some outstanding and remarkable people, and I've been able to do what I call going behind the veil and really finding out the nuts and bolts of what it takes to really build a brand and a business that's going to last. And so, because I've been able to go behind the veil, my give back is to now go out and try to teach this and impact as many people as possible. And when I did it in 2016, we just had so many great testimonies and so many great reviews of how people transformed their business, which enabled them to transform their lives, which enabled them to transform their families. And at the end of the day, that's what I'm really committed to, helping individuals so they can help their families.
Okay, fantastic. So, are you going to be also in the East Coast as well at some point during the year?
We are, and so last time in 2016, we did North Carolina, we did Maryland, we did New York, we did Virginia, and so I do know offhand already we have Virginia. I don't have the date offhand. We'll do Atlanta. I think we'll do North Carolina again. North Carolina treated us well, and so those dates are still coming out. But stay connected, and we'll get that out to you as soon as possible.
Okay, well, go ahead and give everybody your contact information so that they can make sure they stay connected.
Yeah. Once again, I'm just all over social media. My handle is at Dr. Will Speaks. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, LinkedIn at Dr. Will Moreland. That's the platform I hang out the most on, between LinkedIn and Facebook, and so you can always catch me there. Shoot me an inbox. We can connect there. And I would love to hear what you're doing to impact the world, and any way I can serve you, I would love to do that.
Okay, well, I have to ask, like any other entrepreneur, the last question is, what do you need personally to thrive?
Me personally, for me, I'm in a really good space in my life, and my family as well. And as long as they're well, what I really get energized by is doing exactly what I'm doing right now, talking to communities like yours. And if I can say one or two things that help someone get some perspective and help them build and grow their career, their life, or their business, that's what really brings me joy and satisfaction, and that's when I wake up and to a smile every single morning, knowing that my family is thriving and they're loving on each other, and that I get to go into my office and help entrepreneurs live their best life possible.
Awesome. So there you have it, everybody. Please, you have the information before you with Dr. Will Moreland here, having a wealth of knowledge to help you with your small business or any endeavor that you're trying to do. I also want to remind you that we also have tons of other information from all the other participants who are on this podcast in addition to that. So I'm going to make sure that Dr. Will's stuff is down at the bottom of this podcast so that you can reach out to him to have him come speak at your event, or you want to reach out to him for any kind of business advice, or you can reach out to me, and I can also help you as well. But don't let not communicating and, like we said earlier, not taking advantage of opportunities be your excuse or be in the way of you moving forward. So Dr. Will, I want to thank you for being on the podcast and for doing what you do. And I want to encourage you to keep on doing what you're doing because you definitely are paying it forward to support small businesses.
Well, once again, thank you so much, and had a blast. And thank you once again for all the work that you're doing to provide these platforms and all the clients that you're working with. You're impacting lives. Every time I hear your name mentioned in circles, it's always positive. So thank you for everything you're doing as well.